To make this quick video about HIVE. If you've been living under a rock, do you know that HIVE is the hottest thing in the Canadian Stock Exchange in the venture due to its obvious link with cryptocurrencies, especially Ethereum. Basically, they have a partnership with Genesis, which is the world's largest Ethereum miner, etc., etc. It's super hot. It hit over $1 billion market cap just recently, and this has been the talk of the last few months. Now, today we had a very interesting price movement. HIVE was actually at a high of, I think, 668 or something like that. Let me just look into my panel here on CEO.CA. Now, the reason why I can see this is because I'm a pro member of CEO.CA. If you have been lurking on this website, on this super tool that I call CEO.CA, and you don't have the pro, you are missing out. If you don't have the pro subscription, then you don't get this rich information, which will actually save you hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, within just, I don't know, 3 months to a year of your investment / speculation career. Anyway, back to HIVE. I have here 668 as a high, and you can see that it closed at 471. What the heck? Now, HIVE came out today, this afternoon, with a piece of news. Let's take a quick look. HIVE Blockchain announced the release of shares from lockup. Now, lockup is a period when earlier investors or private placement investors aren't allowed to sell their stock. Let's see what they say. Blah, 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 blah. HIVE announces that 24.6 some million common shares originally due to be released on November 15th, 2017, will be released from a voluntary pooling agreement effective at open of the market on Wednesday, November 8th, 2017. Okay, so they were due to be released on this date, and now they're going to be released about a week or so earlier to allow for more market liquidity. Before I go on, I have to give you a huge disclaimer. I'm a tiny shareholder of HIVE, early investor, so this applies to me, okay? Now, let me just explain to you why I think they did this. Actually, let's get into what this means. This does not mean dilution, okay? First of all, period, end of story. Dilution is when the company creates extra shares in order to raise capital to go about its business. This is not it. This is very early investors in the company who are in this very long lockup period that is much longer than your usual 4 months, that are finally going to be able to trade their shares. As an early investor in HIVE, I can tell you that November 15th is just one of the dates. That means that no, it doesn't mean that early investors in HIVE will be able to sell everything on November 15th. They will not. They'll only be able to sell a portion of their holdings in November 15th. In November on the 15th, some of their holdings will probably be locked up until May of next year, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so these are shares that are coming onto the market every 3 months or maybe longer. And so this is going to be not just a huge dump, okay? The almost 25 million shares is just a part of this whole thing. Now, this is not new shares coming to the market. It's existing shares of people who were not able to sell this. Now, look at the huge gains that HIVE has had, okay? They had a private placement at 30 cents, and it's now way more than a 10-bagger for those private placement shareholders, but I'm talking about the people who are actually investors before the private placement at less than 30 cents. These guys have seen the stock just surge ridiculously and have not been able to sell most of their holdings. A portion of this is going to be available and was due to be available anyway on November the 15th, and now they're pulling it forward 1 week. Now, they are claiming that this is due to liquidity. Let me tell you why I think they did this. This is my theory. It might be completely wrong. Okay, so the problem that we have with HIVE, or the problem that we had with HIVE up until pretty much today, was that you see the stock just going up and up and up and up. And the last, I don't know, maybe 5 trading days or so, have seen the stock just go crazy. Okay, this is not normal stock movement. This is because, you know, it's in the cryptocurrency markets and blah, blah, blah. Now, the problem with this is that we know for a fact that the people who took part in the 30 cents private placement can only sell their shares in December. So this is not, you know, the 30 cent investors. This is also mostly not the earlier still investors of less than 30 cents, because they're still under the lockup period, which will partially loosen up now on November 8th. And little by little, they're going to get to, you know, 100% of their holdings to be released. But this is only about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of, or the investors' holding will be available on November 15th. Now, what I think is happening is that the CEO and the big guys at HIVE are looking at this and they're thinking, well, this stock is going crazy up. It's not strong hands. It's not institutional money, because, you know, they're still holding the stock. Who is doing the buying and selling of this? Well, momentum guys. It's the traders. It's high risk speculators. It's people who are coming in now. They don't know what's going on. They're seeing something go up a lot, and they see that it broke resistance here, and they're just going wild. Okay, that is not healthy in the long run for a real business. If you're just in the markets for a quick speculation, this is great. If you're the guy sitting as a chairman, as a CEO or whatever, you see this happening, you want to improve liquidity, because you know there aren't enough guys selling at this point, because all the smart money cannot sell at this point. Okay, so my understanding is that this wasn't really bad news. This wasn't good news. It was just neutral. It was just saying, okay, we need to maybe calm things down a little bit, because it is no use for us to have just hot money coming in here and going crazy when this is an actual business. Okay, so this does not really worry me. I'm not saying this is a buy or sell recommendation. I don't really make recommendations. I just tell you what I'm doing. And right now I am doing nothing, because you know what? It is not the 8th of November yet. So I can't even sell some of my shares as an early investor. Now, why did this fall so precipitously? My guess is not that this was actually such a negative piece of news. I'm guessing that what happened is some of the weak hands freaked out here, obviously, as it fell. Sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong stuff. So they freaked out at 6 something when it was halted. And then what happened is people did not understand the news. Some people misinterpreted this as dilution, and then they sold. And then they sold everything. They sold out completely at, you know, market prices. And that, I think, triggered a lot of stop losses. So I think that most of this huge dip that you see here in the level 2 graphs of CEO.CA Pro subscription is that I think it was just a bunch of people who weren't even looking at their trades at the time. They just program their trading accounts so that, if this stock goes down by, I don't know, 10%, 20%, 25%, etc., then sell X amount of shares. I think this is what happened here, so much so that it didn't stay down here. It was more like a flash crash. It's more electronic, just automatic trading. And then obviously the smart people started to buy it up to around 516, and then people were utterly confused. They didn't know whether to buy or to sell here because this happened so quickly that you had a lot of volatility until the close. So this is it, ladies and gents. It's not dilution. It's nothing out of the ordinary. I think business-wise, looking from a business perspective, this was a good decision. Do I think this is going to be super positive for HIVE in the short run, meaning like next week? Do I think this is going to go to the moon? No, because I don't think that's what management wants at this point. They're looking at a longer term horizon, and the results are in. If you took part in a private placement that was, by the way, offered to CEO.CA Pro members, wink wink, then you've made so much money anyway that, even when your lockup period is up in December, I'm pretty sure you're still going to have a multiple bagger. So no complaints from my end or from any of the early investors or their 30-cent private placement holders. Yeah, if you don't know what you're doing when it comes to HIVE, I would not recommend getting into it. But this has been a fun ride for sure. And as I told you, I'm going to be holding this at least until sometime middle of next year, basically because I am locked up, as well as some very smart money and very strong hands. So this is it. Take care. See you next week. Bye-bye.